Okay, here we go. It's been longer than I would have liked since my last recording of this, but I bit off a bit more than I could easily chew by choosing Harry Potter as my second one. That being said, I said I would do this, so here we go. I'm going to start off by giving a spoiler warning for Harry Potter if you, for some reason, haven't read it, and also for the inheritance cycle because I am going to be referencing that as I talk here. Okay, I will now give roughly 10 seconds for anyone who doesn't want to be spoiled on either of those to pause the video, leave, do whatever you want. Go read them. Anyway. Okay, now that anyone who doesn't want to be spoiled on them has left, let's get into this. I want to start this off by saying that Harry Potter is a good series. The story is solid. The magic system doesn't hold up under closer inspection, which is what I'm going to be doing here. So I just want to remind everyone, I really enjoy the books. Well, main series books, but that's a topic for a different video. Okay, with that out of the way, here we go. A lot of the issues that I see can generally be set into one of three categories: either language, difficulty, or inconsistency. I'm going to cover those in that order. Language. Why Latin? There is no given reason for the magic in Harry Potter to be tied to Latin or pseudo-Latin. I don't know Latin myself, but from what I've heard, it's not exactly the best Latin in the books. And here's where I'm going to reference inheritance. In the inheritance cycle, there was a solid reason for magic to be tied to the language that is used. A race, precursor race, had magic that was unbound, and it was incredibly dangerous, so they tied it to their language. As far as I can tell, nothing like that happened in Harry Potter. It just kinda is done through Latin, and that brings up the question of what happened, how was magic done before Latin was a thing? Was it a different language? Does magic just kind of cycle through languages as time goes on? Or has it always been Latin and just Latin itself was made around it? There's no real explanation, and that bugs me because you can give one pretty easily if you really think about it. If you plan your magic system well, give it a reason to have the connections it does to language or motion or whatever. I also hate that they don't actually teach Latin at Hogwarts. At least not that I can find anywhere. They just kind of go, here's the wording for the spell, here's what it does. Why? Because that's what it does. But that is separate from the magic system itself, so I'm not going to go into too much detail about that. Anyway, subject 2. Difficulty. The difficulty of a spell is never really explained why. It's just said that this is a hard thing to do. Like with the Patronus charm. When Harry first learns it in third year, it's said to be a very hard thing for even a fully grown wizard to do to that level. But it's never given a reason why it's so hard. Like, there's never any visible cost to casting a spell that I can remember. So, what makes a spell difficult? I'm going to reference inheritance again here, because in that system, magic took the same effort as doing the thing yourself. It just was generally a little more convenient in a fair number of cases. Like, you want to lift a 1 pound stone? You're basically lifting a 1 pound stone if you do it with your hand or with magic. In Harry Potter, you want to lift a 1 pound stone, you can lift it by hand, or you can flick your wand. And that's all? Like, there's no visible cost. No reason for a spell to be particularly difficult other than the wording's a bit tricky. And that also leads to inconsistency in the difficulty of things. Like, in third year, and then again, it's more stated in fourth, but in third year, the Patronus charm is said to be very difficult. But then here, like, very difficult to get a fully formed Patronus from. But then, fifth year, Harry teaches dozens of students how to get a fully formed Patronus. Just like, here you go, here's how to do it, done. Also, wandless and wordless magic, both of which are said to be incredible feats that only a very few can manage when they're first introduced, and then just kind of a thing that all three of the main trio do at one point or another, and like master later in life if you're interested in the expanded stuff, which I personally not particularly am. After reading Cursed Child, I kind of gave up on that, but separate topic again. Anyway, so like, there are things that are stated to be difficult, but never shown to have a reason why. And it's never shown why the main characters get the ability to do those things. Like, yes, it's somewhat shown with the Patronus charm, but then Harry teaches a bunch of people that, so the fact that it is supposedly a difficult thing to do goes away. You can't say, oh, this is an incredible feat for someone of your age, and then 2 years later in timeline have that person teach 14 other people, here's how to do it, easy. Like, that doesn't work. That doesn't make the thing difficult. That doesn't mean that your character has accomplished anything. It actually harms any sense of accomplishment that the reader has for the character from that original instance. Okay. And now the last one, inconsistency. This one comes a lot more into play when you're looking at all the ancillary stuff, like biggest one being Cursed Child, but some of the stuff on Pottermore, which I haven't delved too hard into, gets into this also. But for the purpose of this rant, I'm going to talk about the ones with the cursed child, because those are ones that stick in my head a lot. There are things in the Harry Potter universe that are said to work one way and shown to work that same way, and then later shown to work differently. The biggest and easiest one to talk about is time turners. They are very directly shown in the third book to work in a way in the way of you go back and you don't change anything because you were always there. Timeline stays exactly the same. This brings up interesting questions about free will, but again, this is just talking about the magic. So you go back, you are always there, and you just run through the exact same scenario again from a different perspective. Sure, that's a fine way of doing things. Then Cursed Child came about, and in that, you could change how things play out. You could actually go back, alter something, and you would alter the way things played out and the timeline from then on. Which can be a fine way of doing things, but it's significantly different than how it was originally put in the main books. That inconsistency there's no good way to explain that. Yeah. So there was my rant, and well, probably the first of a few videos on this that'll be like interspersed with other things as I remember more things about the Harry Potter magic system that I want to talk about. Okay, so for the next episode, which I'm not sure when I'll get to, I'll be looking at the Lightbringer Chronicles. I think it's Chronicles. The Lightbringer books. They're not finished. The series isn't finished, but we know the majority of how the magic works, and it's a really interesting series that I want to talk about. Okay, I'll talk at you then.